this is my surroundings. This is my audience. Yeah, 5 of them. These are my note cards. Oh, that's kind of dark. There's 6 of them. Okay. Shut up. Okay. In her June 2021 article, Ellie India describes Taylor Swift as a global icon, artist of the decade, and 3-time Grammy Album of the Year winner. But let's focus on that Artist of the Decade title. So, it's the 2019 American Music Awards, and Taylor Swift is called beforehand to be informed that she is going to be honored as Artist of the Decade. Taylor is elated, but then comes to discover that she can't sing any of her old music. Why? Because she no longer had ownership of them. This is just one instance that ties into why Taylor Swift is currently re-recording her old music. I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, so I'm super excited to share this with all of you. And I'm going to be explaining today Taylor Swift's record label signings, label switches, selling of her masters, hers and others' reactions, and how it all tied into Taylor's biggest project to date. First, we need to start from the beginning. Taylor signed to Sony in 2004 as a songwriter, and then to Big Machine Records in 2005 as a singer-songwriter. She signed a contract under Scott Borchetta that would last 13 years and gave Big Machine Records ownership of her first 6 masters. When the 13 years were up, Taylor decided it was time to move on, so she officially left Big Machine Records for Republic Records, as stated in a November 2018 Billboard article. Taylor wasn't allowed to take ownership of those 6 masters she left behind because the men in charge would not let her. They only offered her an opportunity to stay with Big Machine Records and earn back each album one at a time for every new one she produced under them. Taylor refused this offer because she had a feeling that Big Machine Records was going to be sold under new management, and she didn't want to leave her future undecided. Taylor made a really smart call with this, because shortly after she left, Big Machine Records was sold to Scooter Braun, whom USA Today calls a powerhouse music manager in 2019 of June. Scooter manages Kanye West, who Taylor Swift has a very long-running feud with. After the infamous VMA incident where he walked up on stage and interrupted her acceptance speech. Taylor has accused Scooter and multiple of his clients for repeatedly bullying her, so Taylor was unhappy about this. Then Scooter sold Taylor Swift's masters to a holding company, Shamrock Holdings, for a reported $300 million and a large profit every time one of her songs are streamed or bought. So how did Taylor react to this? Taylor and fans were all very upset about this. Taylor was especially upset about this because she apparently had no idea that this deal was going through until after it went through. Then, when the AMA medley I had previously mentioned came around, Taylor asked to sing her old music, and the men in charge refused to let her. She took to social media asking for help from fans and fellow celebrities, and received an outpouring amount of support. Taylor was eventually allowed to sing 3 of her old songs in her medley, and started the medley out wearing a shirt with all of the albums she no longer owned titles, and sang her song, The Man, a song about females not being treated with enough respect in the industry. She received more support from this, and then, in November 2020, Taylor Swift began her biggest project to date. Her contract had finally allowed her to begin re-recording her music, and her first single, her re-recorded single, was released on February 12th, which was Love Story. On April 9th, 2021, her first re-recorded album was released, which was Fearless, and according to the Billboard 200 article of that week in April, Fearless hit #1 on the Billboard 200. Taylor's version of Red will be out November 19th, 2021, and she also released a surprise single of Wildest Dreams re-recorded on September 17th, 2021. Now, everybody loves hearing their old Taylor Swift favorites come back on the radio after over a decade, but now you can see there's more to the story of why. I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, so this topic has meant a lot to me, and I hope that you all have learned something regardless of whether you are a fan or not. I hope you have learned more about what goes on in the industry behind closed doors, and especially in Taylor Swift's case, I hope you've learned more about her record label signings, her switches, the selling of her masters, hers and others' reactions, and how it all tied into Taylor's biggest project to date. Thank you. Okay, audience.